What is going on in this video? I'm going to be walking you through another case study with a more longer term client of ours or partner of ours that we've been working with since June 2024. Okay, they're in the real estate coaching space. Um, we have been able to help them consistently scale and maintain their sales operation for literally almost 3 years of working with them now. So, this case study to me is probably one of the most important ones we have in our Rolodex because so many businesses can show you that the flashy testimonial, hey, we made $1 million in our first month, or we made $500,000 in our first month. But very few businesses can show you, especially agencies, that they have sustained results with the business. And in this case, it's one that we've been with for almost 3 years. You'll see as you continue to go through the rest of these case studies that some of our partners, we've been with them for 3 to even 5 years up to this point, helping them scale profitably. Okay, so let's dive in here. Where were they when they came on board to us? Now, this is important to understand. They were a well-established business, but we came on selling a new product. Okay, it was a new offer. Their existing product that is no longer around, but at the time is what they were selling. They had business partners that they didn't really want to continue to scale with on that product specifically. And I believe their margins weren't super healthy because of it, internal problems. So they built this new product that was specifically designed to target beginner real estate investors who want to close their first deal in 6 months or less via the Burr method, if you know anything about real estate. So, first thing we did when we came on board, they were doing about $60,000 to $70,000 a month. I think their highest month was about $100,000. They had a sales team that was split between the two products, which is not a terrible thing. That's pretty common in most sales teams. And so the first thing we did is we started to peel back the hood. We started to look at every layer of the marketing and sales and fulfillment process to find what are the choke points, what's broken. So first things we noticed was the ICP was not super dialed in. The leads getting on the call were not a good fit. Some of them had real estate already. Some of them did not have enough capital to even get a deal within their first month. We noticed their sales process was not documented anywhere. They did not have a script. They did not have a flow. The sales team really had nothing to kind of work with, so they didn't have great results. Their sales guys were good. They had good calls, but they had nothing to work with that they can go back to that was repeatable. They had no outbound function whatsoever. There's no function to call leads outbound, which is very common with companies that we bring on board because they just don't have the bandwidth to manage like outbound team. It's a lot of work, and it's a high churn role. So they didn't have any of those in place. They also had a pretty large communication breakdown between marketing, sales, and fulfillment, which was really not helping them grow. Like when your marketing and sales are rowing in opposite directions, which is so common for a lot of the companies we work with, it is incredibly difficult to grow. It's incredibly difficult because the sales is going to give feedback that maybe you don't trust, or the marketing team doesn't trust. The marketing team is going to blame the sales team. Nothing moves forward. Okay, the reality is none of them are right. Nobody's right. We just want to be rich. So the first thing we did when we came on board was really try to fix that and align the two departments. So, like I said, unable to grow beyond 100K a month. Now, what do? We replace their sales team. That was one of the first things we do, which is pretty common. Most businesses we come on board with, we end up replacing the sales team pretty quickly, especially when they're established and they haven't hit their goals, just because they're a little bit demotivated and it just makes more sense. So in this case, we replaced their sales team right away. We focused on aligning marketing, sales, and fulfillment. Now, obviously, we can't take all the credit for everything that's here because they had an amazing marketing team that we got the chance to work with. So the first thing we did with that marketing team is we built a multi-day challenge funnel to create higher intent leads and basically weed out the people who weren't the ICP fit. If you're not a fit for that ICP and you're going through a 5-day, 1 hour a day challenge, like the likelihood of you continuing to watch it and then scheduling a sales call is just so low. So it's an easy way to do it without kind of like rebuilding the entire offer, essentially. We helped the fulfillment team redesign the member onboarding to solve the sales and fulfillment issues because obviously that was a breaking point. There was refunds. Nobody was happy with each other. So we helped them build an onboarding sequence that we use across all of our partners. It's all documented and SOP'd. We share with all of our new partners that come on board. And we built an application funnel so that all the leads coming through had very detailed applications coming in. And then we also implemented a referral system right out the gate. This one's kind of an easy layup that nobody does. Nobody has referrals built into their sales process. And it's one of the first things we tend to do, especially when you have a good product. It's one of the first things we do. Then we built daily reporting between sales and marketing. So we added the marketing team into the end of day reports. We built daily reporting so that they knew exactly what was going on in the calendar every single day. We didn't wait a week to do that. Every day we got real feedback to the marketing team so we could implement and improve quicker. And then lastly, we brought the closers into the marketing calls, which I don't always recommend this, but in this case, it really, really helped align the team and to make sure that everyone was rowing in the same direction, okay? Now, the fun stuff, the sales engine. So first thing we did on the sales engine is we built an outbound engine to convert on the leads from the challenge who didn't book a call themselves. Whenever you're doing challenges or webinars, there's high drop off. It's a high friction. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a high friction funnel, meaning there's a lot of people that drop off throughout it. The good part is you get high intent leads on the other side. But if you don't have a really good recapture process with outbound, with nurturing, with retargeting ads, it will not be profitable. And your close rate will be super high, and your closers are going to be really happy that they're making a ton of money and they don't have to work very hard for it, but you will not be profitable. So we put the closers to a strict outbound KPI. All the closers were taking about 8 inbound calls a day, but they also had to do about 50 to 100 outbound dials a day so that they can clean up that list. And then we also brought in setters who could just consistently work speed to lead and work the challenge leads to make sure that they converted. We, like I said, implemented speed to booking. That was another one, is the second a booked call would come through, we called them right away from the closer. The closer called them immediately and offered to take the call sooner. This was just to help the show up rate because, I didn't obviously mention this. I could have gone on for hours about the problems in the business before we came on board, but their show up rate was also struggling. So the most important thing that you can do to improve the show up rate is move the appointments sooner. Call them as soon as they come in and move them up. Okay. And that's exactly what we did. We triaged the appointments. It also helps us kind of qualify them. And if they're not qualified, to remove them from the calendar. Like I said, the ICP was kind of an issue, so that helped as well. We documented the entire sales process. So the call flow, the call script, the outbound scripts, the inbound scripts, everything was documented and SOP'd so that all the new closers can go through that and we can be effective. If we churn out a closer, our revenue is not going to drop because now we can put another closer into it and sustain the revenue because they have a process that works. That is the key to this consistent month over month revenue is documenting the entire process from A to Z. And then lastly, this is a really cool one. We don't always have the opportunity to do this because of the industry, but in this case, we recruited the closers and we recruited closers that we made sure had applicable experience to the offer they were selling. If your closer acts, sounds, and is like the future state of where your prospect wants to be, they will close at a way higher rate regardless of the sales process. If the prospect jumps on the phone and looks at your closer and is like, I want to be like this person, I want to get to that state, the likelihood of closing is so much higher. So when we were recruiting for this offer, that's the one thing we did is we found closers that had real estate experience. They had passive real estate experience. They weren't like active investors because then they wouldn't have time to close all day. But they had very similar stories to what the prospects wanted to do. And that was so key. So what were the results? Our monthly average through 2024 was about $208,000 a month, about 220 book calls. So it was like about $1,000 per book call on paid traffic. We weren't getting any help from the organic, by the way. This gentleman had a relatively large brand, but was adamant against posting CTAs on his brand to protect it. He's been running offers for a long time, so it's pretty important to him. $1,000 cash per book call on paid traffic is very strong. 48% close rate on calls taken. Okay, so if someone showed up to the call, we were closing half of those people, whether they were qualified or not, they were closing. March 2025, they did $421,000 in cash collected, over 440 book calls. You can see we sustained the same cash per book call and we sustained the same close rate. So as they scaled, we were able to sustain the healthy metrics that we needed. Okay, in the total, we did about $6.6 million with them over those periods. And I'll jump in here to show you guys the dashboards really quick so you can see the power of everything that I'm talking about here. So January 1st to December 31st, 2025, our first full year with them, we did $4.6 million cash collected, about 4.7 in TCV, which is almost like 100% pay in full rate. This was not by using any buy now, pay laters. We don't have any buy now, pay laters with this account. It's all credit card, which is super key because you're not having a super high chargeback or money hold rate. About $200,000 in refunds, which for coaching is really nothing crazy, not that bad. It's about 5% attrition rate, so it's pretty healthy. And 15% closure on book calls, 40% closure on calls taken. All of these numbers were sustained. 907 cash collected per book call. All of these were sustained even during the high months, during the low months, when, there's a couple times where we capped out fulfillment and they had to pull back ad spend because ultimately their coaching calls were too full. And even during those times, we were able to hold all of these metrics because the profit is the most important thing. The money coming out on the back end is the crucial part to all of this. So hopefully, again, this was helpful for you. I really look forward to working with you. If you've already got a call on the calendar with our team, phenomenal. If not, what are you waiting for? Get a call scheduled with our team so we can see if we can ultimately build consistent and sustainable results like this within your business. And if not, then it was a pleasure getting connected. I look forward to working with you.